In a beautiful village of Enugu, there lived a girl named Amara. Amara sat quietly on the creaky wooden bench outside her family's small, weather-worn home. The air was still and heavy, except for the occasional rustling of leaves in the breeze. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, but the beauty of the evening did nothing to lift the weight pressing on her heart. She watched as her two older sisters, Sonia and Jasmine, laughed inside the house, their voices ringing out with a carefree joy that seemed foreign to her. Her younger brothers played in the dusty yard, their energy boundless as they kicked around an old tin can. Amara, the middle child of 6, felt like a shadow in her own family, unnoticed, unwanted, and unloved. Amara, her mother's sharp voice pierced the air, startling her. "Why are you sitting there like a useless log? Go and fetch water from the well before it gets dark." "Yes, Mama," Amara replied quietly, quickly standing up and grabbing the empty bucket beside her. Her mother's voice was always heavy with frustration, as though Amara's very presence was a burden. As she walked to the community well, her thoughts wandered. Her father had died when she was just 5, and since then, the family had been struggling to make ends meet. Instead of bringing them closer, his death seemed to widen the cracks in their relationships. Her mother, worn down by grief and hardship, was often impatient and harsh, especially toward Amara. "You will never amount to anything," her mother had told her just the other day when Amara accidentally burned the edges of a piece of yam while cooking. "Why can't you be like your sisters? Sonia is already being courted by a fine young man, and you? What do you have to offer?" Amara's chest tightened at the memory, but she shook her head and walked faster. She didn't want to cry, not again. At the well, she struggled to draw water as the bucket felt heavier than usual. Her arms trembled, and just as she managed to balance it on her head, a voice startled her. "Do you need help?" She turned to see a group of girls from the village watching her. It was Jasmine and her friends. "Amrai, look at you," Jasmine sneered, struggling as always. "You can't even fetch water properly." The other girls burst into laughter. Amara bit her lip, determined not to let them see her cry. She adjusted the bucket on her head and walked away, their mocking laughter echoing in her ears. Back at home, things weren't any better. She accidentally tripped over her brother's toy as she entered the house, spilling a bit of the water. "Look at you again," Sonia snapped. "You can't even carry water without making a mess." Amara bent down silently to clean up the spill. Her mother, hearing the commotion, stormed into the room. "What is it this time?" she demanded. "Amara, do you want to ruin everything in this house? You're good for nothing." "I'm sorry, Mama," Amara whispered, her voice barely audible. Sorry doesn't fix anything," her mother retorted. "Go to bed. You've caused enough trouble for one day." Amara obeyed without another word. In the dim light of the small room she shared with her sisters, she sat on her mat and picked up a book she had borrowed from the village school. Reading was her only escape. As she turned the pages, she imagined herself as the heroine of a story, someone brave and strong who could rise above her struggles. "This won't be my life forever," she whispered to herself, clutching the book tightly. "One day, I'll show them. I'll prove I'm not a waste." The night stretched on, and though the house eventually fell silent, the storm inside Amara's heart raged on. The words of her mother and siblings cut deep, but she clung to the hope that somewhere, somehow, there was a brighter future waiting for her.